All right, all right. Hey, everybody. It is Ed O'Keefe, and I am here with, I don't know if you're a legend yet, Josh, because I don't think enough people know how awesome you really are. But I'm here with Josh Elizetxe. Did I get it right?
Yeah, that's perfect. Great.
And Josh, just to give you an idea, and I'll try and get the bio right, Josh. We'll go into a little bit, but Josh is fairly young guy. Are you 28 years old now?
No, I'm 25.
You're 25 years old.
I
Oh
am.
my God. I've been telling people you're like 28. So Josh, at the age of 25, has already, I'll give some of the business accolades because that's what people like usually look at first before we go into all the awesome things you're doing for youth and things like that. But Josh has already exited, meaning sold a multi-eight-figure media company that he started. I'm going to get the story as best I can from a library on a computer that wasn't even his own. Um, Exited that company, and one of the reasons why we came to become friends is at my last Traffic Mastery Live event. He was wearing this cool Adidas. I think it was an Adidas, or for all I know, it could be custom, like cool, like warm up. And I went up to him and I was like, "Hey, man, we haven't met yet. I like to meet everybody who attends my events. They're really intimate and awesome." And he told me that his companies collectively do over $65 million a year. He does millions of leads or millions of visitors through SEO every month. So SEO is not dead. And one of the things that we're going to talk a little bit about today is he spends over $1 million a month on influencer marketing, which I think is probably the biggest, fastest growing trend. And what's cool is there's two brands that I'm aware of that he's utilizing influencers they're all household names. We'll talk about in a moment. In a really sharp, clean, professional, fun way that is pretty impressive. And so he's doing all this plus much, much more. And more importantly, such a humble, nice, kind guy who's doing just some phenomenal things along the way. The reason why we're doing this interview today is because he's actually speaking at my event here, not here, I'm in Chicago, in Nashville on September 25th, 26th. And obviously, if you like what we're talking about, I'll have a link. You can check it out. But right now, you're just going to sit back and enjoy this. You can ask questions, post comments. Please share it as we deep dive into the mind of Josh Elizetxe. So, Josh, welcome to the Ed O'Keefe Show, and thank you for being here.
Awesome. It's always a pleasure hanging out with you, Ed.
So I don't know where, I mean, usually people start in kind of the backstory. So I think it's probably pretty really inspiring just to share just a little bit about your background. And then where I want to segue to talk strategical wise is on your brand. So we'll get there in a moment. Do you mind just giving a quick little background as to how you got into digital advertising and kind of your upbringing? Because I love your story.
Yeah, for sure. I've been programming and designing for now just over a decade now, and so I got an early start because growing up in a very humble upbringing and being the youngest in my family of siblings, I always wanted to be older. I always wanted to work. I wanted to do things. I wanted to help my family out, and so I knew I had to be good at everything I did because I knew that nothing was going to be handed to me, and so I had to figure it all out. And so when I was a teenager, when I was 10, 11, and 12 years old, I was put into a class that was responsible for working on the school yearbook, and part of that was working with cameras, and then working on computers of editing the photos and all of that. So, my family didn't have a computer at home, so for me, the more computer time I had, the better. And one thing that I was talking about the other day, one thing that really helped me was, and I didn't know it at the time, of course, I was a kid, but my mom brought home a keyboard, literally just a keyboard like this, And I used that keyboard to transcribe everything I was watching on TV. So cartoons, whatever I was watching on TV, I was transcribing it on my keyboard that my mom brought home from work, and I would do it just for fun. I was bored, and that led me into obviously being able to be great at typing, which led into my ability to want to work on the computer stuff instead of on the camera for the yearbook class. And so I got more and more familiar with computers. And then when I was heading into high school, there were some kind of activities going on in the neighborhood I grew up in. There were some gangs that came from California that were recruiting, and my parents didn't want me around that. So I spent a lot of time outside of football and track and field. I think
we're breaking up a little bit, guys. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Am I back now?
Hey, Josh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me? You there?
I lost audio. So is it me or is it? See, Sarah, can you send me a note real quick? Sorry, guys, give us 1 second. Oh, you can hear both of us. I just can't hear Josh. Okay, let me see if I can shut down more screens on my side. Just keep going, Josh. Keep going. They said they could hear you. I can't hear you. Okay, hey, Josh is frozen right now, so let me just let him know because something seems to be pausing him on that end. So let me just re-invite him real quick. Sorry, guys. So one of the cool things that he's doing, which is what we'll cover in a moment, is Ed, my picture's frozen. Are we back? So one of the coolest things he's doing is that building the brands with influencers. So I see a lot of the questions coming in are about that. So we will cover that. I apologize for the frozenness happening, and we will make it better. So give us a moment here. Let's see if he's jumping right back on, and that would be awesome. Let me see here, Josh. You're frozen, buddy. Okay.
Let's see. Am I back?
Yeah, you're back, bud. Sorry, I don't know if that's me, you, whatever, but you're here now.
Awesome. We'll keep rolling with it. Just let me know if that happens again. It could be something on my end as well that I can check.
All right, go for it. Where did you leave off? Because I lost you for a moment.
No, I was just talking about how it was. I was talking to someone else the other day, and how interesting it led back to my mom bringing home a spare keyboard and me using that keyboard to watch TV and learn how to type, watching television, watching cartoons. And so I was just typing just for fun. I was bored. And that led me into not being afraid to use the computer. Then, some of the activity that was going on in my neighborhood, my parents wanted me to spend time at the library instead of around some of those bad activities that were going on in our neighborhood at the time. So then I was around computers again and at the library, and a lot of my friends there that I made at the library while I was 12, 13 years old were playing games. And there was a contest where if you read books you would get points and you can cash them in, whatever. And I figured I was there and I wanted to figure out how I could get the most amount of points the most quickly. And I found out that if you read boring books, you would get more. And I found a loophole, which was the dummies books. The dummies books were considered reference books, so they were high value, but they had a lot of pictures in them, so they were easy to read. So I could get a lot of points very quickly. So I started reading all the dummies books, but the ones that stood out to me the most were how to build a website for dummies, how to program for dummies. So I started to learn how to program. I knew I kind of liked computers and I could type fast. So I started programming and I started creating websites and even games. And I realized at that moment that I enjoyed making the games more than I enjoyed playing them. And so for me, that was a fundamental shift from a consumer mindset to a producer mindset. And I became infatuated with creating things. And so started creating websites. That led into teachers kind of finding out what I was doing, and they had friends that needed a website. And so at 13, 14 years old, I was essentially a contract web designer developer. And then when I realized that I could actually make some money off of this, that's where everything clicked, because I enjoyed it, I was good at it. And then when I realized I could help my family out, that's when I realized I wanted to do this, for the rest of my life, and this is what I enjoyed. So, that's a hard thing to realize when you're 14 years old, because telling your parents that you want to be an entrepreneur, particularly with my dad being an immigrant from Spain, leaving a phenomenal career and all these things, and it was a lot to take in at the time. But I just felt it inside of me. I wanted to do that. So that led into building websites, learning about advertising, from a client business to building more of a platform. And so that kind of led on and on. But that's the synopsis of what got me into computers. It was, I liked it, I was good at it, and I wanted to make some money to help my family out. And those two together kind of sparked it all.
Yeah. And what wasn't one of the things you'd said in the past, and this kind of sets the framework a little bit of like the importance of digital advertising and understanding how traffic can be turned into profit. Wasn't that a part where like the light bulb went off, the specific light bulb went off, was like, oh my God, I can run ads, or I could build content that ranks, and I actually get paid for this kind of stuff? And because I think a lot of people just miss that, and or are afraid that it's complicated and a different language.
Yeah. I mean, it for me, I realized actually it was me realizing that once I set up AdSense on the websites that I was building for myself, I realized that someone was paying to advertise through AdSense. And so I said, if someone is paying to do that, that means they must be making more money, because I'm getting a piece of that. And so I started to figure out, I want to be the person that's buying the ads one day, and I'm going to use the clients that I had at the time to learn how to do that. And I had a client tell me one day, I was 15 years old, and he said, Josh, he said the website, everything's phenomenal. You did it in a weekend. You're one of the best programmers I've ever seen. Phenomenal. Here's your $500 or whatever. But that's it. I give you the money and you leave, and that's it. But if you learn how to bring me customers, if you learn how to advertise online, I could pay you this $500 every single month. And I said, wow, okay, I've got to figure this advertising stuff out, because clearly everybody wants it. And so that began my obsession with driving customers.
Looking at your ideas, I think like one thing I think the audience would love to hear is a little bit about your opportunity filter. And now I'm going to jump everybody, just so you know, I'm fast forwarding a little bit. Josh has done a couple great interviews on Facebook, on YouTube. They're up there, and even Purple Labs, James has done a great one going more into his backstory. But I want to jump straight into, for time's sake, your current opportunity filter. Like when you look at opportunities to invest in, put your resources and your own time into, we see it, and you can give examples with your own brands, the Snow Teeth Whitening and Detox Organics or whatever you want to talk about. Like, why are you going into that? And then we'll go a little bit into a blueprint, but let's start there.
Yeah, so looking at opportunities, I realized that it takes a similar amount of energy and effort to build something that is long lasting, something that creates massive impact. And I remember going on YouTube and watching videos of successful entrepreneurs and advice that they gave, and I recognized a pattern. And they all wish they could go back in time, and they wish they could have thought bigger. And they continue to push themselves to think bigger. And so I realized that if I could do that as soon as possible and really convince myself to think bigger and longer term, then that would help me filter my opportunities a lot better. And so I like businesses that are very large. I don't mind competition, and competition is a great sign for me. Is it going to be around 30 years from now, 50 years from now? And can we create something that's at least a magnitude better than what's out there and create a moat around us? And then, is it something that, business is really hard. So is it something that I can see myself spending 10 years in, getting frustrated, whatever comes with that business? Am I willing to withstand that? And it's similar to like, getting married. It's like, can I go through the ups and downs with this business? If the economy crashes, how's the business going to get affected? So thinking a lot more, outward and forward thinking, and realizing that, if you're opportunistic and you're just searching for the next trend, the next hit, that's addicting, and it becomes a cycle. And I wanted to break that cycle. When I sold my last company, I realized, okay, I've got the money I need, I've got the cars, I've got all this. And I said, okay, what do I want to do now? And I want to create things that have huge impact, that I could run for 50 years, and that I have a chance to be the number one in that industry, or close to that, at least in my sub industry. And so that is what led the opportunity. So I'm looking at, is this something I can spend a lot of time in? Is it something we can grow in? Is it something I can pour money into and the business will grow? And am I willing to write a check from my own bank account? And, my brands now have millions of my own money in them. Can I sit down and be my own investor? Would I invest in this thing? And I put my money where my mouth is as my own investor, and I treat it as so. Every check I write into the business, it's like if an investor is investing in the business, and I treat the money with the utmost respect. And so I think that time is the only thing we can't get back. And if you're going to do something, do it big. And it's easy to say that, but I think I finally am understanding that, because it takes the same 60-hour work week to run the brands that we run than it did running some of the other stuff I ran that didn't have those same characteristics. It was exact same effort, same time, sometimes more effort and more heartbreak on this side. So I said, why not shift my thinking? Because people are so focused in tactics. I get tactic focused all the time. That's a myopic way to build a business. And I have to focus on the strategy as well, as just as much as the tactics, if not more, especially as your team grows.
I absolutely love it. I love it. With your brands, do you want to share what your two your one fast? It's very public. I love that. And also too, Josh, what's really cool about what you're doing is you have brands that, like, if they go in your criteria, you're happily pushing them out on your Facebook feed, your personal feed. You're very proud of it, as you should be, which is quite a shift from a lot of internet marketers that are looking for hustle money. Is right. That they really don't want anyone knowing what they're doing at all, and it's just a hard way to live. I get it, but it's a hard way to live. Influencers, right? So let's just jump right into that a little bit. And I want to talk a little more big picture as to why out of all the people I know online, you have not quadruple, I think you've 10x down on your influencer strategy. Is that a fair assessment from the outside looking in?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've figured out, I mentioned this the other day, and it sounds ludicrous, but I think we figured out how to lose money better than everybody else,
I love
and
it.
I think that I'm willing to go. I'm not just willing to go to zero. I'm willing to go to tens of millions of dollars in debt to prove a point here and to create impact. And I'll sink whatever I can into this. And right now, I'm funding everything, but we have a lot of interest outside. We're in the process right now of acquiring and looking at more acquisitions as well to acquire patent portfolios to really consolidate the market and on all of our brands. And so now, if you apply that focus, and like how you said, can you happily share it at a party when people ask what you do? Can you burst out with excitement with what you're doing, no matter how small it is? Can you have that passion, excitement? Because it's going to be very hard for you to not get shiny object syndrome if you're already kind of shying away from sharing it. And for us, I think we figured out how to lose millions of dollars better than anyone else. And I think that's why we're winning. That's why we'll continue to win. And people try to, in every one of our brands, we have people that will try to copy us, and then they're confused on why they're not as successful. And that's because it's the tip of the iceberg metaphor. And so what you see is what everyone sees is you see all the A-list celebrities, you see all this going on, but the years of contract negotiations and patents and trademarks and all of that down here doesn't get shown because it's not sexy. And so we figured out how to point the tip of our iceberg in the right direction. And so for us, we figured out that in order to you look at what Nike did with celebrity, with Jordan and Tiger Woods and 100 others. They for me, when I'm working with Rob Gronkowski, he spent his whole life training to be in the NFL and to be a Super Bowl champion. I get to borrow that as a brand, and that's worth a lot of money. Not initially. That's a problem that most brands can't do celebrity like we do because they're looking for an ROI, and I'm looking for an ROL. I'm looking for my rate of loss, and so I'm looking at different metrics, and it's very anti traditional business for me because I'm always looking at, when you run a lifestyle business, it's like, I've got to make a profit because I've got bills to pay. I've got this to pay. When within this world that I'm playing in, it's like, lots of big egos with the celebrities, agents, managers, everybody wants their cut. Everybody's greedy. And so you have to play in this very, very wild market in a new media, which is social media, and trying to build a brand through that. And so I'm looking at, we just did our planning for next year, and I said, how can we lose 5 million next year? So we're planning, what is our breakdown of loss of how we're going to lose $5 million? And I'm saying we make money as a whole of a company, but we lose money in these efforts. So that's, yeah.
Okay, so I want to clarify for everyone here that Josh is, he's not losing money and dumping people into a leaky bucket. So is it fair, just so we're on the same page and so people aren't going, oh shit, now Ed's just bringing a guy who's got deep pockets and he's going to lose money. If you actually go, Josh and I've actually studied you more than you probably even are aware. He's a very low-hanging fruit, optimize and tighten all the screws. And so in specific media buying languaging, that is, we have to create a profitable online sales process and get the verification that when we dump all these visitors here, which the loss, correct me if I'm wrong, when you say rate of loss, you're dumping it into one channel with a certain halo effect, but you have multiple buckets catching it, correct?
Yeah, so when we started very, very early on, you can do this for free. Any business can do this. And I don't care if you're B2B, B2G. Any business can utilize celebrity to borrow brand equity and to expedite the breaking down of barriers, psychological barriers, when people are making a decision to do business with you. People do business with people they like. And if you associate yourself with people they follow or they like, they're more likely to like you. It's basic psychology. It's been around for thousands of years. It's studied for thousands of years. And really all the difference is and why it presents an opportunity is 50 years ago, you'd have to set up a huge contract. You'd have to film, bring a whole film production crew. I've been 20 years ago, 10 years ago. And you would have to say, okay, Michael Jordan, here's $10 million. I'm going to fly my whole crew out. We're going to film a commercial. And then we have to pay to distribute it on all the TV channels and hope that it works.
And it might not work. Right. That's the big thing. It might not work.
So what we're doing is when we started and all this stuff, we reached out to people that, that we thought were a good fit. So we went on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and searched all our keywords that just matched our business, found people that looked good, and reached out to them. They got their Gmail right in their account, reached out to them and said, hey, can we send you some free products? How much free products can we send you? And if you like them, maybe you'll post about them, maybe you'll share about them. And circles of influence are as small as a drop of water, but the drop of water still creates a ripple effect. Yeah. And so I'm looking for, what we're doing now is we're creating a thunderstorm. And so the thunderstorm is causing a rumble across the entire lake. And when, this is kind of art of war stuff, but when you've got that stuff going, momentum is key. And so we've got momentum now. So we're aiming at, 50x next year, and how we do that. So the rate of loss is, we're making high profit margins when we sell to med spas, dentists, celebrity dentists, cosmetic spas, high margin there. We make high margin on, SEO and some of our other traffic channels. And then we dump that profit into the celebrity side, because it lifts the entire boat. And it gives us a higher multiple. I mean, if you look at, there's a company called Viviscal, and they're a pink and white box in every drugstore, and it's for hair growth for men and women. And they sold for 15 times EBITDA, because Jennifer Aniston was on board and a few others. But when you look at, I study M&A because I'm just obsessed with it. I'm studying Harvard case studies, are $9 a pop, and I try to read one every day. While I'm pooping, I got a case study, and I'm reading it. And so anyway, these case studies talk about the multiples that companies pay, and you realize that goodwill is an instant multiplier effect. And so how do you create goodwill so that a big company can justify paying a lot of money for you? They say, well, look, Vitamin Water had 50 Cent. Vita Coco has Rihanna. Body Armor, which is valued at billions of dollars, has Kobe Bryant. And celebrity is just one of those ways to expedite your path and get a higher multiple if you ever want to sell. But it also reduces psychological barriers, because we know our product works. We have the lowest return rate in the entire industry, highest satisfaction rate. We know it works, but people don't know that. But if they see their favorite celebrity using it, they're going to go for it. And that goes for micro celebrities. So if you have someone with 500 followers, sometimes they perform very well because they're trusted in their community. And so what we're looking for is, we're looking for those trusted people in the droplets of water, and we're willing to lose money because we know that long-term people will recognize us, and recognition and being a master brand like Kleenex is infinitely valuable. And so for me, I'm thinking 10 years out of when people think of teeth or they think of oral care and they see snow, I want them to connect those dots immediately. Just like when people have trouble going to the restroom or with their bloat, I want them to think detox organics. I have to help my body detox organically. So it's just that connection point is what we're looking for.
Awesome. So many things we can leap off of. I think you answered, there's a few questions that came in, like, oh, I can't afford Gronkowski. I think one of the things we will go over at the event more tactfully is like, how the systems of reaching out to micro influencers. I think I have this covered. I'm not going to ask you to do this. I'd like to keep you on the bigger picture negotiation. But I want to segue like a little bit. What's your partner's name? He spoke at Geek Out on SEO.
Yeah, so I have. I think I should have explained the way my company's set up. I think that'd be awesome. That would help. So we have a holding company, and the holding company has all of the various companies within that. And one of those companies, each different company has different partners within that that I'm partnered with. And so one of those companies, we are in the financial services business, and Anthony Sarandria is my business partner in our financial services business, and he is a phenomenal. He's not only a best friend, he's just a phenomenal operator, a phenomenal person, and just really allows both of us. We bounce off each other so well in that business that we're driving over 1 million calls a year. All direct. We're doing all of the marketing, advertising ourselves, and it's barely our, I think, second year in business, and we're at 1 million calls run rate. So that's 1 million unique callers calling in America that we're able to drive, and we have some huge. We're doing the same thing again in that business with not just celebrity partners, but we're also partnering with some of the biggest mega churches in the world. We just partnered with Hillsong, which is a huge community, 1 million strong. And so we're catering our products so that we're creating the best service, best experience. And then we're creating branded products within that for the partnerships that we're doing with these large churches and celebrities. And we've got a few in the pipeline that we're really excited about. And anyway, and then SEO for us is,
where I'm going with it.
SEO is a cost per acquisition is $0. When you're ranking, what you pay to get there, as long as you're keeping it up, our CPA is $0, and that helps us lose money in other areas because we're making the money here to pay for everything.
Are you doing that? And you don't have to share if it's too confidential, but are you doing that same exact model? And is that part of your business map? Like that, even with Snow and Detox, you're looking for properties to acquire, and is that part of the 10-year we're blocking and tackling these media properties?
I think that I think where it triggered in my mind is that I was reading about monopolies, and the way Peter Thiel says, the way that you can identify monopolies when they say that they're not one. And so Google does a really good job at you're creating alphabet and having all these various science projects that they're working on that kind of distract you from the fact that if there's not a monopoly, there's at least a duopoly going on. And Amazon right now is trying to take a crack at the duopoly of Facebook and Google. But what I realized there is that there's a company called Luxottica, and they're based in Italy. They create I think they own Ray-Ban, Oakley, Sunglass Hut, Lens Crafters, boom, boom, like I can go on. And they make all the glasses for Chanel, Louis Vuitton, all of the brands. And so they own the manufacturer, they own the marketing company, they own the retail distribution, they own the brand. And so when you're thinking about, and they've got incredible margins and they're massive, billions and billions of dollars. And so when I thought about that, I said, how can we own the distribution channels, the call centers, the servicing arm, even down to the bank that uses to loan to the financial services? And so figuring out which area do we start in first. And I realized that these incumbents that have the infrastructure have a really hard time adapting to the changing marketing environment. And so that's easy for us to do. So we're going to do this part, which is kind of the lowest paid, most work. You're driving the customer. Once we have leverage here, it's easier to back in and acquire one of these guys or build our own out because we have the lead source, we've got the call centers, and then we've got the bank. So it's taking that model through. And so the same way happens online. If someone's searching best beauty products and they go to bestbeautyproducts.com, which you own, I can't help but think that Amazon, Jeff Bezos buying Washington Post, and the ties that wealthy people have because of their connections and their options, that there's some sort of influence going on there. And I recognize that the world runs off of influence. And so the more that you can control influence, the more that you can control your destiny.
It's so funny. I was on the phone with another really smart guy who just exited for multiple 8 figures today. Well, and we went through the criteria, and of because we were talking about, and I asked him a similar question but different. I said, well, like, if you were in my shoes and we're having this conversation, what are we supposed to be talking about rather than me? Because we're looking at doing a deal on something. And he said, well, here's the criteria we need to look at. And he gave me exactly what it was. But number 2 was owning media properties. Like in order to acquire so step 1 is you have something of unique value in a market. But step 2 was you own media properties that controls these audiences and these buyer sources. And then we talked about how influencers fit in there and stuff like that. But that makes total sense. Okay, cool. So we're going to wrap up. I have a daughter's basketball game coming up shortly. But I wanted to ask you, Josh, you were at Traffic Mastery Live in Atlanta. Oh, you know what I was going to tell everybody? He was at the Atlanta event, and I was going to say, I feel bad slightly for the other speakers because this event you were speaking on day 1. And after you shared a few of your strategies on day 2 of the last event on the panel, nobody wanted to pick up the microphone. So this will be really, really good. This will be good. But what's any words of encouragement you'd give people who are thinking of coming? They don't know how to grow their business, or they are growing it and they're looking to scale it. What was your experience? I didn't prep you for this at all from being at the last event, and any good wisdom?
I think that the caliber of people that were at the Atlanta event was impressive, and it was I found myself not wanting to miss a beat and wanting to attend every element and every social and everything. I didn't want to miss a beat, and that's rare for me. Not ego aside, I'm reading a lot, I'm listening to podcasts, I'm constantly consuming whatever I can to give me an edge, and then constantly producing. So for me, I'm 80-20. 80% of the time, I'm head deep in our brands, building them, and then I pick my head up every once in a while. I go forage, and then I come back to my base camp and build from there. And so the more in tune I am with my brands and what I'm doing, the better I'm guided on what I'm looking for when I'm foraging. So when I go out, I'm very, very, very selfish with my time. And so when I go to events, when I go to things, I'm very, very critical. And I was incredibly impressed. The caliber of people just really were exciting. I wanted to talk to each and every one of them. They each had something to share. And I think that as opposed to these big conventions and huge things, this is such a high quality. Like if you took the 100 or whatever people out of a 3,000 event, the best ones, that's who's at this event, that's who's coming to Nashville. And so I would say, if you're head down deep, because I know how it is, you're like, oh, I want to go to the event, but I've got so much going on. This is so important. I can't miss a day, or I can't do this. I promise you, the most important work is the work you don't get paid for. And that's the stuff that I do. I'm reading, I'm learning. This is cutting time for me. Going to this event, I'm just as much a student as anyone else in the audience. For me, this is cutting time, and this is collapsing time for me and allowing me to absorb the very best stuff. And so for me, those 2 or 3 days will, for me, I know just off the bat, will make us another $1 million. So for me, I can't miss this event, and I happen to be speaking at it, but I don't think I could miss it regardless. And so if you're on the fence about it, I promise you, if there's one thing you got to do, watch a little less Netflix on the weekend and work it off on the weekend. You have to be at this event, and I promise I'm going to share as much as I can, maybe as open as I can. And the last event I spoke at, I spent several hours, and I didn't want to leave because we were having such good conversations with everyone there, and people had great questions, and I wanted to share more. So I'm excited to kind of come out of my cocoon and share whatever I can to be of value to you guys.
You're awesome. Hey, I have one follow-up question on that because it was on my list and I didn't get to it. I think this is something a lot of CEOs miss, because I know you currently have a lot of different people running your traffic, correct?
Right.
And so I was talking to a CEO the other day, and they're trying to get traction, and he's got a plan. He's got a plan of all these outside people who are going to help him. And I was like, man, this is like what we cover. This is everything we cover. And he's like, all right, well, maybe I'll send my marketing director. And I always think, like, when I hear guys abdicating, understanding the cutting edge of what's actually working on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, with influencers, with SEO, and you think that they're going to magically come back with your vision and give it to you. So where do you rest on that? Because I know you could do a lot of the things you're doing now because you've done it in the past. You had to learn it. But I know Nick, and I know a bunch of your media buyers, and they're pros. They're world-class pros. So can you share a little bit about the shift of thinking about, even if you're not going to go into Facebook and run your own ads, the importance of understanding the picture?
Well, the most successful entrepreneurs are willing to get their hands dirty, but doesn't mean that you have to do everything yourself. But for me, I am constantly challenging myself as a leader so that I can be worthy and earn the right to work with A players on my team. And so for me, the more A players that I work with, the more that it attracts. It's like gravity, and people want to be on the winning team. And I realize that people want to work with us, be on our team, because they recognize we're a rocket ship and we're not stopping. And that, similar to how Elon Musk attracts talent, he goes in and reads every single rocket ship book you could find, and he consumes and becomes obsessed. Mark Cuban says you have to know more about your product and your market than anyone else. And I would venture to say that you're a fool if you think that you can continue to grow if you're not focusing on the one activity that drives incremental value for your business, which is marketing and advertising. And you don't have to do it, but you need to understand enough, and you need to get the respect from the people you attract, because you can't just go out and I'll just hire someone for that. Hire them for what? What exactly are they going to be doing? How are you going to track their metrics, KPIs? How are you going to support them? For me, I spend 15 hours a day working because I've got such a great team. I feel like I'm letting them down by going to sleep, because I want my team to win. And these guys are hungry. They're the best of the best. And that's why they want to work together. And so if you want to attract the best people in the world to work with you, be a part of your team, be your teammate, you have to put the work in the gym, because a leader is someone who gets in there and is with them, as opposed to just go, go, go. And if there's one thing, okay, I get it. I don't like reading accounting books, right? But I have to understand our financials, because it's key to our business. And same thing with marketing. I don't need to know exactly how to place a specific pixel on a page, but I need to know the value of that. I need to be able to communicate that. And I need to be able to understand the value that my team is bringing as well, because the worst thing an A player can face is a leader who doesn't understand their value. And if you're not understanding someone's value, they're not going to be on your team very, very long. And for me, all I want is to attract the best people and create opportunity for everyone. And in order to do that, you have to put in a little bit of work, which is, hey, come out to Nashville, hang out, have a good time, take some notes, right? Bring your marketing director with you. Show them that you're not better than them. You're in there with them, learning with them. And I promise you'll have a 10x effect, as opposed to just throwing someone on a plane and feeling like, oh, I did my part. I threw them on the plane. Go figure it out. Bring back all the goods. You have to go forage as well, because no one's going to forage as well as you are, but you can help train them while they're in the foraging mode instead of just sending them off into the forest.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, awesome. Cool. Well, hey, I'm going to let Josh is probably going to go work for 5 more hours. You look great, man. I can't wait to see you in Nashville. And the link is up on the page, trafficmasterylive.com/Nashville. You'll see all the rest of the people that are there. We throw a massive party on night 1. It's really intimate. It's not massive like where and we have, I'll have 4 or 5 of my friends who are country artists there to sing. It's really a cool thing. And then on night 2, we go out to a bar where I have more friends singing, and it's an amazing thing. So Josh, you're the best. And I can't thank you enough. And everybody else, make a decision. If you're not going to come, that's fine, but make a decision, So, all right. Peace out, everybody. We're done.
Thanks, guys. See you later. I'll be around. See ya.